of aliens is really the most common depiction of aliens that you see. Not only in
all for you!
So a pea brain is a universe in different dimensions.
Place itself on my right shoulder. And my immediate thought is
he spent 2 years working with extraterrestrial beings during his time with the American military.
Larger arena is the hyperspace that
This little girl is me, and you told somebody that she's dead.
Wait a minute.
They were using real stuff.
You didn't disappear?
I'm right here. I'm right here. I'm right here. I'm right here. I'm right here.
Welcome, everybody, to End of Things. I am Stephen Radford, and on the other end of the phone here is YngDave.
Yeah, at the asshole of Brooklyn, the very bottom.
The butt cheek of Brooklyn.
More like the asshole.
Yeah, you reckon? So, yeah, this podcast is pretty much a very candid, very open discussion about things that... of a supernatural, paranormal conspiracy,
and
unusual,
what most people don't believe.
Yeah, stuff. You know, the extraordinary. I like the extraordinary. What you probably don't know is that YngDave and myself come from very different standpoints on this. I think I think I'm probably I've got a shoulder of corporate on my a hand of corporate on my shoulder. That's in other words, I'm more skeptical than I think YngDave is. Am I right?
The corporate would rather see me dead, with my thoughts.
Well, I think it's more that you're more willing to allow things to be, and I'm not. That's more of a
yeah. Okay, I'll agree with that.
Everything that's out there that's a part that's labeled unknown and extraordinary is fascinating. It's a story to me. It's an idea, and if I took it too seriously, then it would consume me, and I think it would be too much of a conspiracy theorist. And yeah, so I have to. I've in a way I probably distance myself more than yourself.
People would consider me a conspiracy theorist, and I don't care.
It's a healthy interest in the subject matter.
I go with the logical point. What would be logical?
So if we
corroboration.
A UFO in China's skies forced Zhoushan Airport to stop operations on July 7th.
Some Chinese residents are on edge this morning after another apparent UFO sighting. It's the second one in 2 weeks. The first sighting was on July 7th, and an airport had to be shut down.
Theories about the UFO's identity are burning up on the internet
as UFO
well.
sightings go, this one was as good or as weird as it gets.
A light appearing high in the Arctic sky, baffling those who saw it and exciting a lot of comments.
Locals say the light appeared to be bigger than the moon. Thousands of Norwegians bombarded the Meteorological Institute to ask what that light could have possibly been.
There's a new video this morning that some say may be proof we're not alone in the universe. A UFO in the form of a bright light is seen descending over the Dome of the Rock in Jerusalem. The video is said to be taken over the weekend. Then suddenly the light shoots up into the sky. Here you see it. Another video from a different angle appears to show the light doing the same thing.
Yeah, and that is the question, by the way, Megan, because, critics, it's difficult for them to dismiss this because there are so many different angles. We've got 4 different videos, all from various perspectives, but they do not know of anything like this in the Israeli army.
All right, that's a UFO if I've ever seen one.
Yeah, can you identify it?
That's undeniable.
So let's start with UFOs. Let's start with extraterrestrials, because I think we both have a story to tell there.
Yeah, mine's simple. I seen a diamond-shaped, let's call it UFO. It was hanging above the Atlantic Ocean, which is out my window, because I know where it is. Well, I have a good idea anyway. I'm right by the ocean, a mile away. And it was hanging, and it's shining in the sun. It was gold. And I said, what the hell is that? I got opera glasses out, made out the shape, and then it started lifting like millimeters, and then it just disappeared up, like it went through a vortex or a wormhole. It didn't just vanish. Maybe it did, through the wormhole.
Yeah. Again, it becomes more speculation at the end there. But
Yeah.
you
Because I don't know what the hell happened to it.
Yeah, but what? Yeah, and so it's like we're not very good at beginnings or endings, but we're very, very clear about what we saw in the middle of it all.
Yes, and I was a teenager, and I wasn't on drugs.
So you pretty much tell the distance from where you were, how far away it was.
Yeah. It was about a couple of miles away, probably a mile from the shore. I just gave him the shape, didn't tell me if it was not from here. Since there was a lot of captured UFOs in the reverse technology, who knows what it was?
Yeah.
That's my skeptical view of it.
Yeah, who knows exactly? Because it's as soon as you start saying the word UFO, people just kind of go, "Huh." It's always going to be, you're pointing to the aliens. But yeah, so that was the only occurrence, and you never saw it again.
Nope, that's it.
That was it, just pure and simple. There it was. How long?
Could have been. Go ahead. What's the question?
How long was it out there for?
When I first looked, it was already there. And then I said, what the hell is that? And I went to get the opera glasses. It was still there. So it had to be there around 5 minutes. But who knows how long it was before I looked.
Well, you already got the opera glasses. You might as well have gotten some ice cream or some popcorn or found a comfortable chair or got into a suit and tuxedo. It could have actually made... But yeah, a couple of minutes is still a long time. I mean, it's not like it's just there in front of your eyes and then disappearing. That's a long length of time. Did anybody else see it? Was there any other case of?
I was alone in my room.
Well, because you're talking about the 70s here, right?
Unfortunately, yeah. I'm old.
But being in the 70s, you're not going to have access to the internet, so you won't be able to you won't be able to go on Twitter and say, is anybody else seeing that out the window?
Exactly.
Which I don't know if that happens. Maybe we ought to one time do an episode where we just look at Twitter to see who's looking at UFOs right now, that minute. It's could be quite interesting to just search.
Yeah.
I'm looking.
I first got a computer. I just got this at the very end of April of this year. Not very long, is it?
Not long at all, and I think it's when you're starting late, it's kind of a daunting thing to get onto.
Yes. Oh yeah, and I just got Twitter 8 weeks ago.
But then I kind of admire it because you've gone through most of your life, even in the digital era, without it, and
99%.
Exactly, you haven't needed it. So
I didn't want it.
You're more objective. You haven't been kind of warped by it all yet. It's you've still got time, but there's a lot of
that's for sure.
There's a lot of behavioral shifts that you have to do once you get a computer, once you're on the internet. There's a lot of things you have to kind of just
like not bullshit.
Yes,
that's what you get a lot of.
Yes, stay away from the bullshit. Don't click on anything.
It's too much.
Clickbait, that kind of thing. Email, don't open it if they say that we would like to rest $1 million in your account. All those kind of different tricks.
Oh, sure.
And this kind of goes with the paranormal, I think, or with supernatural and the extraordinary. That there's a lot of people out there who will believe things hook, line, and sinker, and
they're gullible.
Because they're gullible, and unfortunately, they are able to then relay that gullibility across the ether, and everybody else is kind of starts to react to them, and there's no source anymore. It seems as though that anybody can say or start anything or talk about anything, and everybody has their own beliefs, so it's very hard to pinpoint anything of truth anymore since the internet.
I go with logic.
And cross-examination.
The universe
Mm-hmm.
is 8 billion years older than the sun, all the galaxy formation. I heard now the last estimation is 1 trillion galaxies. We're the only life?
Yeah, and that's that famous quote from Contact by Ellie Alloway, who she said, this I have to do the voice of Jodie Foster. I hope Super Meowie doesn't mind, because she does She also does Jodie Foster on her show.
No, I never heard it, so
But,
free to do
okay,
it.
You ready? Here we go.
Yeah, there are 400 billion stars out there just in our galaxy alone. If only one out of a million of those had planets, all right, and if just one out of a million of those had life, and if just one out of a million of those had intelligent life, there would be literally millions of civilizations out there.
Well, if there wasn't, it'd be an awful waste of space.
I kind of lost my Jodie Foster at the end there. I think she gave up.
Well, it's completely logical.
Yeah, it's logical that there's millions of civilizations out there. If there are going to be trillions and trillions of stars, then there's got to be something. You know, if how odd would it be if we're the only ones?
Infinitesimal percentage. There has to be many more than us.
There has to be, absolutely.
It's just logical.
Logical, yes.
And there's people who don't believe it at all. I need proof.
I would like to believe, because logically it seems completely preposterous to believe either way, that they're here or not. But if there are civilizations out there, then they're probably too far for us to reach anyway. So it's not as if we're, you know, for the entire existence of humanity, we might still always be alone. We might always be wondering and never having met another civilization out there, because we might be gone by the time any other civilization reaches us. Or
my opinion on that, well, before you get to your or, my opinion is just we were never alone.
There we go. That's the or. That's the or that I was going for. We were never alone.
Oh, sorry about that.
No, you nailed it.
I stole your thunder.
You stole nothing. You actually literally just took it to where we want it to go. So
let's stay here.
So we were never alone, and so you have the belief that they're around here somewhere.
Yeah, I believe they are here. That's what people don't get. Because if they're out there and able to get here, why would they not still be here?
Because they never left.
I heard there's lots of places under the ocean and underground that they're in. And they use multi-dimensional to get around, so they can't be seen.
Yeah, which makes sense, because, you know, there's no reason why, you know, aliens. I mean, I've discussed this on another podcast before about the stupid alien who goes out flying in his flying saucer and gets seen by a group of people, and he gets called in. Hey, come on, Bob or Larry.
You idiots, what are you doing?
What are you doing? Stop flying around, showing. So, oh, sorry, I didn't realize I forgot to put my shield up, or, you know, and it's like they're not. That's not going to happen. That's not going to happen. There are, you know, it's they've already said that, you know, and I think that even Carl Sagan said in that video that I sent you, which was obviously he doesn't want to believe that there is any chance of there being extraterrestrials in our local vicinity, and that they're actually, he definitely doesn't believe that they're flying saucers or anything, which I can understand that. I mean, I'm a little bit skeptical of that. I mean, if they were ever going to be flying
but
over...
he's a corporate debunker.
There are curious daylight photos of UFOs. Some look suspiciously like hats or hubcaps thrown into the air. Photos can be faked. More common are unidentified lights at night. They're often aircraft. But if we can't identify a light, that doesn't make it a spaceship.
Most reports of unidentified flying objects turn out to be something else, like the refracted image of a bright planet or the re-entry of an artificial satellite. Some are psychological aberrations, some are hoaxes. Never is there any compelling physical evidence, a detailed close-up photograph of a strange spacecraft, or a small device of extraterrestrial manufacture, or a book written in alien hieroglyphics. Never. There are reports of such things, but never the things themselves.
He's a corporate debunker, which fair enough. You need to have that in order to have...
How about Seth Shostak?
Who's that?
The head of SETI, trying to get the radio wave signal. I think it's radio wave signals.
Mm-hmm.
You've heard of SETI, right? The search for extraterrestrial intelligence.
Is this the wow in the margin story?
Yeah.
On August the 15th, 1977, a radio telescope called a Big Ear detected a radio signal from somewhere in the vicinity of the constellation Sagittarius. And this is the printout from that night. You can see that somewhere around 10:15 Eastern Standard Time, a very bright radio signal pulsed in. It looks something like this. You can sketch it out. It was a pulse with a width of around 72 seconds, and the peak intensity, the peak brightness, was over 30 times the brightness of the background radio emission from the galaxy. So it's fascinating.
I heard there was plenty of other signals like that were suppressed from insiders getting on the radio and speaking about it, working at SETI.
It is funny. I mean, when you look at the opinions of, I mean, they're people don't talk about it. I mean, Bill Clinton talked a little bit jokingly.
Oh, he's full of shit.
He was joking. I think it was on Jimmy Kimmel, and it's all a joke. It's all a joke. You know, he was basically asked by Jimmy Kimmel, you know, if I was the president, the first thing I would do is go and find out about ET straight away. You know, and did you? He goes, yeah, I did.
Because I want to know. I'd want to know what has been going on. Did you do that?
Sort of.
Sort of.
Yeah, we had, I think it was at the beginning of my second term, we had the anniversary of Roswell.
You waited that long?
I did.
Wow.
Well, I didn't. And then there's also Area 51. You remember there was a great sci-fi movie where there was an alien kept deep under the ground in Area 51? So first I had people go look at the records on Area 51 to make sure there was no alien down there. And people thought that because everybody who works there has to stop about an hour away and put on special clothing and then drive in and out. And that's because a lot of our stealth technology is made there. We know that now, but there are no aliens there. So then when the Roswell thing came up, I knew we'd get, you know, zillions of letters. So I had all the Roswell papers reviewed, everything.
If you saw that there were aliens there, would you tell us?
Yeah.
You would?
I would. So I think, look.
But it's just...
But he was full of crap about everything.
But it's just the way that you know, whenever a news story breaks, and you'll hear this thing that involves somebody seeing a UFO, they say it in such a childlike way, like, our next story, you've heard it before, you've seen it on the television, UFOs.
Chuckle.
And they, yes, Marjorie, don't you find it amusing that we're going to have a story now about this man who thought he saw a UFO? Oh, isn't this adorable? And that's darling, isn't it darling?
Yeah, it's really adorable that these creatures who make us seem like ants walking around are coming here. That's why they don't land and say hello.
I think the whole... I mean, we've got to kind of start digging into our own core beliefs here. I mean, we both believe that the body is a vehicle, and that what drives the vehicle is energy, and that's our mind.
Yeah.
And that mind and that energy could be a part of a mass consciousness.
Indeed. The whole universe is energy and connected and mass consciousness. But we wouldn't know that because it's being suppressed.
And that's why when we said that, you know, with music, you can get a whole arena of people just swaying to the same song because it's about a rhythm, it's a vibration, and everybody feels the same.
That's the word. Vibrational frequency.
Mm-hmm. And so... and that's what mental telepathy is. It's you on a very deep level riding the same wave as something else or somebody else, and you're basically just surfing.
You're vibrating together.
Which could have other connotations, but
yes. I have thought about that, believe it or not.
Those are the kind of parties that we shouldn't get invited to.
I'm not getting invited to any, so it doesn't matter.
So your thoughts on Betty and Barney Hill?
Yeah, Carl Sagan left out a lot in that.
That's a couple who newly married, weren't they? Betty and Barney, and we're not talking about the Flintstones here, Betty and Barney.
Barney, will you please stop with the falling star stuff?
But we both wished, Betty. That's what gave it the double whammy. The zoom zoom.
That was a different.
Not the Rubbles.
Not the Rubbles. No, they had their own problems, but.
Yeah, pretty much. I think a couple of years.
This was way back in.
Interracial. Don't forget that.
They were newlyweds and they went to Canada because they wanted to see Niagara Falls, and they drove back from Canada back home, and then they had their encounter.
New Hampshire, to be exact.
And that's where time stopped.
That's where there's missing time.
Missing time, and also the memory loss, amnesia.
Yeah, they were much further down the road than they remembered. As you were saying before, amnesia.
I can't get anything but a static. You still don't believe it, do you?
No, I don't. There must be a reasonable explanation.
They had observed, so they said, a strange moving light in the sky. By definition, an unidentified flying object. It seemed to follow them for miles.
What's the matter with that dog?
What's that sound?
I don't know.
After a time, the lighting patterns on the UFO changed. It appeared to land. It blocked the road, preventing them from driving on. They said they saw mouthless creatures approaching who were not exactly human.
Barney? Barney, what is that?
At this point, the story becomes still stranger. They lost all recollection of what happened in the next few hours. But weeks later, they said, they recalled some details and discussed the experience with others. 26 months later, under hypnosis, they reported that a UFO had landed and that the crew had emerged. They were captured, they said, and taken aboard the craft.
You know, nobody knows exactly what it was that really stopped them, stopped them in their tracks. They would, if they were driving behind the wheel, they'd be driving at quite a speed. They wouldn't just suddenly stop, unless something actually had control over that stopping. You know,
yes.
When you're driving home, you're basically looking at the road signs. You're making sure that you're staying awake, and you don't just fall. If you fall asleep at the wheel, you know you're doing that. You know that.
Yeah, a lot of people do that.
So what was it? What happened to them?
You want my opinion? From all the data, whatever people want to call it, they were abducted by aliens, and memories was wiped out that they were, and they lost 2 or 3 hours, I think, of time, because they were almost home when they snapped out of whatever trance they were in. They don't remember being almost home. They knew it was another couple of hour drive, and it wasn't.
Okay.
So how could that happen? Explain that one.
Explain that one. And
oh yeah, the hypnotic regression.
That's
how they found out the memories.
Yeah. So before that, they didn't know they had memory loss. They didn't figure that out. They were literally just
the time.
They
knew they had missing time.
Yeah, they thought, well, how come we're here now? That's bizarre. So if you look at their situation in terms of reality, what happened in reality to them, they were on their way home. They thought they had another 3 hours or so left on their journey, and all of a sudden they were ahead of their time. They were
way
closer
ahead
to home. And so in that moment, what would you think? You'd think, okay, what just happened? You know, if you have no memory of it, you don't automatically go to, do you know what, darling? I think we were picked up by extraterrestrials and then dumped back down 3 hours ahead of our journey. No,
you don't go straight to that.
No, you don't. So
no, I'm agreeing. It's time warps, time slips.
So that was the hypnosis. So how do we validate that hypnosis was accurate? That it wasn't just somebody thinking, oh, do you know what? What if we can just plant this into their heads that they were abducted? You know.
I mean, who would do that? MK Ultra.
Mm-hmm.
You know what the MK Ultra is, right?
Yeah, isn't that the
mind control?
Mind control. That's it. Yeah, but then you start to think, well, was this a couple who wanted to make publicity? Was this a couple who actually wanted were they on their way from Canada and thought, do you know what? We need a little bit of money. Shall we fake? Let's fake an alien abduction story. It'll be fun. Come on, we'll have a kick out of it. We'll go and have our hypnosis session and we'll pretend that we've been abducted by aliens. It'll be fantastic.
I think that's far-fetched.
Exactly.
Even though some people would believe that.
Exactly. And there are probably couples out there now that would do that because they are that jaded. But back in 1961, newly married interracial couple, I think the last thing that they would want would be publicity. They would just want to be enjoying their life together and not trying to make a fuss, especially at that time of time in history.
100% agreement. 100%.
Yeah, I mean, they wouldn't want to be attracting attention. They'd be worried. I can imagine they'd be quite concerned at that time, just to make sure that, that they're safe,
And the Ku Klux Klan isn't after them.
Exactly, and because that was rife at that time. That was right on the edge of it all. So it's not really the best time to kind of make stuff up like that. So maybe we can just
would have publicized that.
Yeah.
The scrutiny and all that.
But why did they...
Lots of scrutiny.
Why did it become public? Why did it become known? Why didn't they hide it? Why was it public? Because, again, it's the time period I start to think, well, if it was me, I would be like, let's just not say anything. Let's just keep it to ourselves.
That's a good point. But they really wanted to know badly. They found out, and they wanted to publicize it. Who knows the motive?
Yeah, because it's always a strange thing for me when I hear these stories, like the Travis Walton one, for example. I mean, how many books has he written? He still does. They pay him to go to seminars.
Yeah, but there was witnesses before he ever even wrote a page of the book. He was with a bunch of people when he was abducted.
Yeah.
Why would he want to make that up?
Because not all of them profited.
Conspiracy. At the time, they were considered nut jobs, especially Travis.
And only Travis has kind of been the one who's profited by it all. I don't think anybody else has, just him.
Yeah, but they saw him vanish. They saw the light, and then he wasn't around because they were running for it. Let's get the hell out of here. And days later, he finally showed up. I don't think that's a made-up story. I actually heard him on 2 different radio shows.
Yeah, it's a tricky one, that one. I mean, I always see the publicity gets in the way of my my wanting to validate that story.
This happened in the 70s.
That's right. And
I know you go through the possibility thing. I go with the abduction thing.
Maybe I'm just too afraid to just bite it and say, hey, yes. Even though I love the idea of the story of the alien abduction story, I'm still kind of avoiding it.
How about the 8 billion year head start? Unjust. just the sun we see in the sky.
In such a the digital era has kind of ruined it for us in terms of enjoying a good, well put together hoax rather than just a sloppy, easygoing, push button hoax. People put a lot of effort into faking those videos back in the day of video.
Absolutely. Too much. Now,
Yeah.
it's ridiculously easy.
All of those things are fallible.
How about mass experience? Like a bunch of people seeing the same thing at the same time.
It would have to be mass, and it would have to dominate the ordinary news and actually be meaningful.
Not in this country.
It would have to be full on.
There has been mass sightings, though, because I listened to Peter Davenport of the UFO Reporting Center, and he has people at the same time seeing the same thing. And it's usually orbs, orange orbs. It's usually that color. Other colors, of course, but I hear orange the most.
Yeah, and I think I think this is a good time for me to tell my story about what I saw when I was a kid.
Go right ahead.
It was I think I was probably about 12, 13. It's quite young. In my bedroom, and I noticed a light reflecting in the pond that we have outside our window. And I looked out the window, and I saw looked at the reflection first before I looked up. I could see a kind of a purple triangle. Now, the purple triangle was spinning on an axis, so it was kind of like just turning on itself. There were lights that were fixed lights that weren't spinning. It was the purple ring that was actually the triangle ring that was moving. So lights at the tip and a light in the middle. And so I from the reflection, I looked up, and within seconds of looking up, it just kind of whooshed up, gone.
Sounds familiar.
And but of course, it was a purple in color with.
That's not familiar.
But the lights were kind of just your standard yellow glow lights, just head beams, more like, and that was that. But I didn't know what it was. I didn't really think of anything. I knew that stealth bombers were being tested down at the airbase nearby. Nick Pope, our version of Mulder. UFO hunter.
Ministry of Defense.
Yeah, he was the only person who was actually talking about these things at the time. And of course, this was around about the time that the X-Files was just kicking off, so it wasn't really in our mass consciousness. UFOs had to be looked at in books, so I didn't know what I was looking at. It wasn't my thing. So I don't really know what to say about that.
That was in the 80s, I would think.
No, 1991, 1992.
Oh, yeah, you're much younger. I forgot about that.
Post Twin Peaks.
I got you by a couple of decades.
I was born 1980, so...
Yeah, so 92, that would be it.
But it was
I was a teenager in the 70s. And what I've heard that's happening now is really nuts.
What is going on
and
now?
I might believe that there's trade between civilizations in space.
Yeah, because there's been a lot of stuff about there being the secret NASA and the secret
the secret space
missions
program.
And
that's been hacked. NASA's been hacked. That's how I forgot the guy's name. He's from Scotland. He found out about the secret space program, and they wanted to give him 35 years to life in jail. Gary McKinnon, I think is his name.
Yeah, and he
hacked NASA.
And he's still out there.
Yeah, he has a paper that says non-terrestrial offices. What does that mean?
Yeah, that's nothing to do with Earth.
In my
exactly.
opinion,
That's
non-terrestrial.
Non-terrestrial offices. It's definitely not the
It's
Arctic.
in space.
Yeah. And yeah, so it's a bizarre time. I think now, I mean, this is why I was a little bit reluctant to do a podcast on these subject matters, because there are so many podcasts out there already, and they just tend to just turn cases over the same way every time. They just read out the same case over it, and then they just say, "Wow, wasn't that great?" But what I think would be interesting for us is that we're more kind of trying to connect the dots and trying to figure out where things are leading to. When this all began doesn't really matter now, because I think humans have been thinking extraterrestrials for centuries.
Well, the year you were born, something weird happened.
Oh yeah,
Rendlesham Forest, the Rendlesham Forest case.
That was the case down in the south of England, Norwich.
Yes, the officers there actually seen the craft landed, and when it took off, it made impressions in the ground. It was a small triangle, and it had symbols on them. And Jim Peniston touched one of the symbols, and a binary code was implanted in his brain, and he wrote it down, and it was deciphered that we're an experiment, an ongoing experiment, if you could believe that.
In my opinion, if aliens are here, I suspect the newspapers would be full of the story. And if governments are involved in a cover-up, they're doing a much better job at it than they seem to do at anything else.
So this is something I feel like, if I was the president, and it's unlikely that that is ever going to happen.
You never know.
If I was the president...
It was unlikely that I was going to be president.
The moment I was inaugurated, my hand would just, it'd still be hot from touching the Bible, and I would immediately race to wherever they have the files about Area 51 and the UFOs, and I go through everything to find out what happened.
Right.
Did you do that?
That's why you will not be president. Because that's the first thing that you would do.
Because President Clinton said he did go right in and he did check, and there was nothing.
Well, that's what we're instructed to say.
We have enough?
Oh, I think we've
got enough.
That's a sweet amount, I think, definitely. I've got over 30 minutes here, so...
Oh, excellent.
So, to start with, I think we've got some pretty good stuff there. I mean, we've got our own personal experiences on UFOs, and we will continue this in another episode. Good night, YngDave. Thank you very much for calling, and we'll do this again next time.
Okay. Thank you, Stephen, and everybody out there. Good night, fuckers.
I love it, and we're going to go out on that. Thank you very much.
Okay, that's great.
Perfect. Stop recording.